Welcome to Recovery Recreation TV. I'm your host, Susie Lordy. I'm also the founder of a 501c3 nonprofit here in Massachusetts called 24 Hour Power Inc. And we do recovery graffiti all over the state of Massachusetts. And the reason for this show was people would come up to us at events and say, there's nothing fun going on around here. Now, we know that's not true, but we knew that we better hunt down stories to let them know just exactly how they can enjoy a life of sobriety. And not just themselves, but their families and friends and pretty much anybody that wants to live a healthy lifestyle, right? So sit back and enjoy the next 30 minutes while we bring this incredible story of how a community came together during COVID-19, no less, to really change lives for a lot of people in recovery. We have a great lineup today for this half-hour show, and I'd like to start introducing them all. So let me begin with Jess Nieuwenhuizen. And Jess is the Director of Programs and Planning for the Boston Public Health Commission. Jess, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
We also have Craig Andrade. Craig, welcome. I understand this is a new position for you, so I'm excited to talk about that. You are the Associate Dean of Practice and the Director of Boston University's Activist Lab.
Good to be here.
Christian Arthur. Christian, this isn't his first go around with Recovery Recreation Television. Christian's a regular. And Christian is a graduate student from BU that really brought us into the loop and allowed us to create some phenomenal art. Thank you for joining us, Christian. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of input on this.
Always good to be here.
And Colleen Thompson, my all-star 24-hour power master artist in recovery of, you name the discipline, she's a master artist in it. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and she was a lead artist on so many of these art projects that we're about to discuss. But before we go there, I'd like some questions answered. What exactly is an activist lab? I mean, I'm not sure a lot of people know about that. So Craig, I'm going to turn that one over to you.
Thank you for asking. First, it's important to acknowledge that I like Christian, had first come to BU School of Public Health as a student. I came for my Master's of Public Health and my Doctorate of Public Health, and have been practicing public health for now some almost over 30 years. And the Activist Lab and the portfolio of practice for BU School of Public Health is about how do we encourage brave public health practice, as I say, that meets those less seen and those less heard, to find ways to partner with them and make the world a better place. That's the basics of it. It is about making sure that given this moment that we're in with all these crises, from racial reckoning to COVID to an election coming up, all the kinds of challenges facing them and obstacles in their way, how does public health bring a bold, brave approach to meeting people where they are and helping them help make the world better and make their world better?
Incredibly said. Some of the comments that you were making regarding when you were involved from the clinical perspective and you saw people that were getting treated over and over again. Can you explain that a little bit? Because that really, it opened my eyes in a very sad way to realize there has to be change.
Right, exactly. For over 14 years, I worked as a nurse at first Boston City Hospital and then Boston Medical Center when it switched over. And at any one time, at least 50% of the patient on my floor had addiction as part of their medical portfolio, their health portfolio. And I recognize there that we have to not just look at the individual, but we all, or just see a part of that individual. We need to see the person as a whole, and as a whole that lives in a community that is challenged in all kinds of ways. And how do we make sure that we're thinking both upstream and downstream, preventative and in acute care in a way that looks at a person from a three-dimensional way, that there are many things and their addiction doesn't define them by any means. And how do we see the world around them to help make that more conducive for them taking good care of themselves and being able to be all that they can be. We saw more than a few times when patients would come in, we'd help settle the thing that was in the front of their concerns medically and health-wise, and within weeks sometimes they were back again. And so I think we're doing better than we have in the past, and we still have a long way to go to find ways to partner with communities and other organizations to make sure we bring a really three-dimensional wraparound approach to caring people with all kinds of challenges, including addictions.
A wonderful definition right there of cultural humility in action, right? I mean, that's what we're striving towards, the three-dimensional view of that's going to be one of the main focuses for our recovery arc for next year, because it's time. And I think COVID has allowed it to become time. You know, people are in shutdown mode, and there's time to really think about what's going on here. And on that note, I would like to talk with Jess for a moment. Hello, Jess. First of all, I want to thank you so much for allowing our little nonprofit to come in there and make some wild art for you guys that was recovery-based, but still, it was during COVID-19, and we still found a way to work together. I mean, that is hugely impressive. So how about a little background on you, specifically what you've done at this public health level?
So I have held 3 positions at the Boston Public Health Commission, all working in recovery services. And so right now I really get to focus on working with some of our residential programs, and they've been really at the center of the artwork that we've been able to create with you all on this project. And so it's been, like you said, an incredible opportunity to do this during a time where things just feel so challenging for everyone. And so it's been wonderful to be able to shine a little bit of light, a little bit more hope into some spaces that sometimes can be forgotten. As Craig mentioned, you know, just really lifting up the voices of folks who are most vulnerable. And at the Boston Public Health Commission, we do have a mission that we are going to protect and serve Boston's most vulnerable individuals. So that's what we're here to do. And I'm just so fortunate that I get to work with folks in recovery and sort of carry that torch of hope.
Christian, I know you can relate to that. You're a young person compared to me in recovery, and very active in the community all the way around, from your work with the Office of Recovery Services for the Mayor's Office, to your work with BU, to, you know, artists and of all genres, really. So we're very grateful to have you in our corner. So Christian, how about a little background on what got you into recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people who end up going in the direction of recovery is they can't keep living the way that they're living. I made the decision, like many people do, to enter recovery, to pursue it, and to work hard at it. And I didn't do it alone. I did it with lots of support from many other people, but absolutely informs why I do this work. It keeps me driven to do it. So yeah.
How did this come about where we got the phone call to say, hey, you want to do some art 24-hour power? Because this was such a drop down from heaven on us during COVID-19 when everybody was looking for things to do.
So Christian actually started at Recovery Services as a social work student, and when he came in to complete his new hire paperwork, I had seen his resume and seen that he had some items on his resume that indicated that he might be interested in the arts. And so I right away I told him, I was like, I think I have a project in mind, and I'd really love to see artwork brought to our residential treatment programs, because I think that there's something to be said for spaces that are beautiful, and that beauty and that artwork can be healing on its own, and that can be an intervention as well. And so I was really excited when he agreed and really, allowed me to be part of this project from start to finish with him. And it's been a really wonderful collaboration and mentorship for Christian in this way.
You're moving mountains. That's great, though.
Mm-hmm.
Colleen came into the loop for this project on a bunch of different phases, okay? Colleen worked on original artwork on the heart. She recreated that. She recreated a stained glass piece. Let's go to the fence. The fence was awesome, and that's something we actually got to do in person, socially distanced.
Yeah, so the fence was really cool experience. Susie had told me about it, and I really, it was like, oh, let's check it out. We went down and looked at it and like, oh, we could do something and it's gonna be amazing. We really just hung outside and made this area that was really run down in the area of look 1,000 times better, more appealing, because as an addict, going outside and sitting out to get a breath of fresh air, and you see something it was a really dark brick colored reds and images really affect our spirituality, they affect our mood, they affect how we perform. So to be able to go outside and be surrounded with these bright colors and vivid images and really, and a lot of people are unknowing to it, but you can go and see something absolutely beautiful or colorful and fun, and it can alter your state of mind for the rest of the day. People in the struggle, I know what the struggle's like, and it's hard work, it's a lot of pressure, it's really, really tough to live like that. And if you can have one day to make another person feel human, to tap into our spirituality and our source together, that's what I strive to do and really inspires me.
And this is why she's my master artist in recovery. And Colleen, now, the history of your drug abuse. Look what you've come back from.
Like Christian said, I was at a place where I couldn't go on. I was days away from death in a really horrible situation when I decided to get clean. And I had tried over and over again, but this was that one time, that one spark, that one miracle that came into me. And I never wanted to use again, And it's going on 7 years, and the quality of my life, there's not a day that goes by that I don't see the miracle in that. And that can happen for other people if we feed them in these ways,
It's not the first time 24 Hour Power was able to work with the Boston Public Health Commission. We were introduced to them when we were bringing recovery art to a nursing home for people that had traumatic brain injuries. Many of those traumatic brain injuries were a direct result from either a drunk driving accident, an overdose where you got Narcaned and you didn't come all the way back. Those are the forgotten people that people don't think about, and I always tell the people in recovery when I'm trying to help people in early recovery, you build self-esteem by doing self-esteemable acts. It's not something that just happens by osmosis, right? I mean, you have to physically do stuff or mentally do stuff to get you in that zone. And that's why it's such a blessing to have something like an activist lab that actually is looking at these issues and saying, how can we bring communities together to bring their voice to the table and say, what do you guys need? And how are you doing that, Craig? What's next? What's coming up?
So we're, again, this present moment and all the challenges that we're dealing with, and COVID being the umbrella of all of that, has really highlighted the cracks in our society that undermine people's success and their ability to be all that they can be. And so I see that as an inspiration for us to see the value that public health can bring and all the things that we do, and particularly making sure that we're the bridge to community to help them guide the way on what are the things that are the priorities. So the consideration is, how do we really integrate all parts of our campus, our students, our alumni, our faculty and researchers and educators, experts, of which I'd like to consider myself as one, having grown up in housing projects in Jamaica Plain and Brockton, and lived with 4 boys as a single mom that raised us in those communities and helped us be who we are, regardless of the level of poverty and hunger that we experience. That having, I bring those voices to the table and all the discussions we have so that they're represented and they can be heard in ways that guide the process moving forward. The work that we're doing with housing projects close to Boston University School of Public Health is just one example. And how do we then go work with immigrants to understand what challenges they go through, whether it's those that speak English as a second language, and obviously when it comes to those that are homeless and have addiction as part of their portfolio, how do we lean into that research in ways that research hasn't been leaned in? How do we learn from what lived experience tells us? And then how do we apply that and practice in communities with communities in ways that just grow best practices to make life different and better for people? So it's going to be a year of discovery. We're starting talking circles in ways that speak to get the feedback from students, from alumni, from community members, from faculty and staff, and then we'll take that with the guiding principle that we are going to be bold and reach those less reached, knowing that if we reach them and can work from the margin, everybody wins. That's the principle, and that when we do events, that we bring those people of lived experience on stage so they can tell their stories. Storytelling will be a big part of that, because I think that's how we highlight those people that are less visible and let their voice tell the story that highlights the value that they bring and how they can move the world to a better place too. And it's not just having academics, researchers, or otherwise. There is a wisdom that comes from those people in those communities that makes a significant difference as well.
This is such a think tank we have right here on this conversation. We have people from all different walks of life discussing how this isn't going to be some quick fix or some interim, let's do this. This is like moving forward in terms of how the future is going to be defined. I couldn't be any more honored to even be moderating this discussion. So, Jess, I'd like to ask you on this one now. Boston Public Health Commission, your role and how you all see yourselves in this community picture that we're talking about moving forward.
So, as Colleen mentioned, I think that art has such an incredible power. And so I think that there's one aspect of this project, which was creating the art and bringing the art to our sites. Obviously doing that incredible mural on our fence. And then there's also all of the moments that come after that, all the moments where someone walks by the fence and they notice it and they comment on it and they look for all the different ladybugs and bumblebees that are kind of hidden in the mural. I think of the artwork that's hung up at Wyman Recovery Home right now, and that each time the gentlemen enter the dining room, they get to see that beautiful large heart. And I think that there's all of those moments as well. So I think that just the presence of the artwork is a way that this project continues to carry on and carry forward. And I think we're really excited about all the different partnerships and opportunities to work with you all in the future, because we think that this was so successful and there's still room on that fence for more. And so I'm excited for creating other opportunities. And I noticed that some of the clients that were engaged in treatment at the time that we were making those murals were asking as well. And so there's some clients that had asked that in the future, could they come back and create some artwork for us too? So it's created sort of a ripple effect in our community, in our small community, about how we can use art and how we can create opportunities for former clients to give back to this community as part of their healing, as part of their, as you said, their day-to-day, like the recreation aspect of their lives as well, because Certainly recovery is about personal growth, but it's also about all the fun stuff and the day-to-day stuff too. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to continue working together and continue beautifying our spaces. I can't wait to get to the point where we're having to decide which mural we're going to retire so that we can bring the newest mural to life. So I think there'll be years to come.
That's wonderful. And you know, when we talk about the arts, that's where I bring Christian back in, because I mean, from the literary word perspective, Christian, you know, you bring so much to the table there, and the collaboration, the different art forms coming together and working in the name of recovery.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The assessment process. So, you know, I feel like we've talked a lot about the production of the murals, but there was like 5 or 6 months of assessment process where I had conversations. We did creative writing workshops just to kind of get the brain thinking about images and concepts and ideas and feelings. And I totally hear you about kind of how one art can inform another, and that was definitely the case in this project. So.
Absolutely, and it never would have happened without you, Christian. This all started with, let's just focus on addiction, right? But then we had to look at, I mean, I'm a person in long-term recovery myself, but there was a lot of trauma and underlying issues before I ever picked up that drink or drug, okay? So it's important that we focus on the mental illness part of this, that we focus on the trauma, the underlying causes and conditions. And I think our artwork is going to start reflecting that more and more, to be a part of this, and just to hear what's going on and what you people all think is coming up in the future.
Our instinct, like our ancestry, and part of our makeup and being has forms of art that are programmed in us, whether we know it or not, tap into it or not. And like my archetype is many different ones. Like I can't just stick with one thing. So over the years, I've done metal work, I've done woodwork art, I've done painting with oils and acrylic paintings. Now I'm getting into polymer clay art. I'm making some really amazing stuff with clay art. I've done some different cultural arts like batiking from the Indian, mandala work from the Indian culture. I think we all need to find those pieces that we're drawn to, and me, I'm just drawn to the whole spectrum of it.
Well, and the other piece of the puzzle for Colleen is her daughter, who she can enjoy experiencing art with now.
Last year, where she's practicing and working and we're doing things together and she's doing things on her own, I haven't been having as many behavioral issues. Like, I don't have to worry about her as much. It has been a part of her transformation, just like it was part of my transformation.
Any final comments?
I would just pick up a little bit of what you put down, Susie. The idea that we tell these stories and bring a whole bunch of different languages and cultures and people from different backgrounds to these. We have a much more colorful tapestry of artwork all over the place that comes from those different cultures. And two, I think we reduce the stigma that still is around addiction. The best way that we get rid of that stigma is by telling the stories, and art is a wonderful way that bridges the gap and helps people understand and feel in ways that kind of diminishes that shame and builds the bridge, just brings the heart forward in a way that sees people and all that they can be. I think that's one of the amazing things that art can do, art, music, and all other forms of art. It really just kind of connects us in ways that allow us to kind of get past stigma and see people for all that they can be.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, that's next on the list, because this is an evolution. No one stays still with this. It's like, where do we go next? When I think about the murals at Wyman, I think about our master artist in recovery, Keith Mize, who recently, lost his battle with addiction, he created that recovery tool belt that will now be hanging there. He was doing extremely well. He had celebrated more than 2 years of continuous sobriety. He was very happy. This isn't someone that had a lot of issues. He was working in recovery, helping out at peer recovery centers. Addiction is so cunning, baffling, powerful. It's waiting to sneak in. It doesn't take much at all. And so, but all that time and effort that you put into a project, you put yourself a little bit further away from that terrible thought of addiction. And that's all we can hope for. It's a constant reminder that we're first of all extremely grateful to have people like you that want to help people like us. That's a big deal. We have a place where we can have a voice. We can sit at a table. That was unheard of a few years ago. So we're very grateful to all of you.
Thank you for having us today. It's been such a great opportunity to talk about the work that you've done, the collaborations that we've all done coming together, and just the impact of the artwork in our spaces. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you do as well.
It's an honor to be on this panel and to talk with you all. I welcome the opportunity to stay connected, Christian. I'm grateful for you pulling me in. I really am. And this is the way we create community. This has made my day, and I salute you all.
Thank you to everyone here and to Colleen who left, but we made it happen. We got it done. Took some time, despite COVID. We still did it. So got the art on the walls. So.
And made a lot of people's days doing it. From the artists to the people that receive it. So it's all stuff that just that kind of goodwill goes around full circle. And never go wrong doing that. That's how I look at it. And on that note, I'm going to thank all of you for joining us. And for all of you out there, I would like to say that we really appreciate you watching us today on Recovery Recreation Television. And you too can make a difference. You can have a seat at this table. And don't ever forget, you can always have fun sober. You just gotta hang with us, right? So until next time, peace out.